Good morning. Welcome to the free state of Florida. We are so glad that you have come to visit our state. It's a little warm. Everyone keeps asking me, what do I do with my hair? I said, don't do anything with your hair because the humidity is going to take care of it for you. What a wonderful organization we all serve. Congratulations. I was backstage, so I didn't get to applaud, so I want to say congratulations to the new executive committee. I get the honor of introducing our First Lady of Florida, Casey DeSantis. She has so many accolades, I don't know what to say completely, so I've toned it down just a little bit because I'm sure that once you hear her speak, what I'm going to say is nothing because you're going to know that she is a wonderful First Lady of Florida. And don't forget, we do live in the free state of Florida. My heart goes out to you, to the ones that don't live in a red state. But we have a lot of work to do, and we can get it done as a team. Our First Lady, Casey DeSantis, she was born in Ohio. Where's Ohio? She was a television host and a journalist, news anchor, and a reporter in Jacksonville, Florida. She's a mother of 3 beautiful children. She is a breast cancer survivor. In her role as First Lady, she has championed incentives supporting mental health, children and families, hurricane recovery, and cancer awareness. She is widely recognized as a trusted advisor to the best governor in the United States of America. She is admired for her strength, her leadership. Her leadership is amazing. She is a very strong woman. And I'm sure she's going to tell you that they are the first family in 50 years that had children, that were elected, that have children in our capital. She's had some challenges with the children in our capital because they're little, and I'm sure she'll fill you in on that. Are we ready for, is she back there? Okay, I'll just keep saying, I can just keep going on and on and on to say great things about her. She's beautiful. She is, like I already said, I believe, she's intelligent. Well, I don't have to say it. You can see what I'm saying about her. She's extremely intelligent. She's very caring. She embraces what we stand for as women. She knows what it's like, I'm going to assume, she knows what it's like to be in a business world where women need to prove themselves to feel accomplished, and she's done it. Oh my gosh, I could just go on and on and on. We are just. Are we ready? Oh! How are you? It is with great pleasure that I introduce the First Lady of Florida, Casey DeSantis.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. I appreciate it. So good to see everybody. Oh man, sorry we're running late. You know, I just got to say, being here, it is so comforting to talk to somebody older than 5 years old. I'm not going to lie. It was a long night with an 8, 7, and a 5-year-old, partially because one of the children, who's 7, Mason, our boy, is a massive FSU fan. And I know, did you watch? It was a little sad. It came down to double overtime. He stayed up as late as he could, and then he woke up this morning because we got up really early. I get up at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and the first words out of his mouth, he goes, "Mama," because he couldn't stay up last night. He goes, "Mama, did we win?" I said, "Nobody." But he's like, "That's okay. We've got Miami coming up." So I appreciated the bounce back at 5 a.m. It caught me in a good spirit. But it's amazing to look at, just how fast time has gone because, when Ron was first elected in 2018, Mamie wasn't even the picture. She's our now 5-year-old. She was born in 2020 during the 15 days to slow the spread. Now imagine that. That was quite enjoyable as they got the governor on the phone with the president at the time and Fauci, and he's bickering with Fauci, and I'm trying to give birth. I'm like, get out. I love you to death. But this is not the time, although I support everything against go for it. I'm all for it. Go give that guy, as much heck as you want. But it was interesting. And then you just snap your fingers and they grow up so fast, right? Like Madison wasn't talking. Mason wasn't walking. He was crawling in 2018. Mamie wasn't in the picture. Now they're 8, 7, and 5. So you snap their fingers and, one's in kindergarten and she's taking over the governor's mansion. She literally, you want to know who's calling the shots in the state of Florida? It's Mamie Elizabeth DeSantis. She is a force to be reckoned with. But, I remember, though, going back to 2018, and maybe of you, I know y'all in Florida remember this, and across the nation, it was a nail-biter of election in 2018. It was determined here by 32,000 votes in a state of 22 million people. And it was really between a bold conservative agenda and a radical leftist who would have taken this state in a totally different direction, particularly with COVID and law enforcement and the riots that we saw in 2020. And when we reflect upon it, it really was one of the most consequential elections in Florida history. And imagine what this state would have looked like had the Democrat opposition won at the time. But for Ron, I can tell you, winning the election is important, but not sufficient. Very important. But what matters and what is consequential is what do you do with the opportunity once you win? See, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second because they gave me the podium and I had a few cups of coffee and a Celsius, which is never a good idea. Don't know why I did that. Maybe because I was up so early talking FSU football, but I had a Celsius on the way down here. And it just kind of gets my goat a little bit because I'm getting old and I've watched a lot of politicians. Let me just tell you, quick side story. I don't know what in the world is getting into me, but you know how sometimes you have to wait until the kids go to bed before you can get out of bed? I want to go back to my bed. But I'm with the kids and I have to wait. And to get out of bed, I have to do this jujitsu thing, right? To crawl over the kids, and it's getting hard. And I feel like I'm doing yoga at 10:30 at night, and it hurts. And so I'm like, man, what is this? I need more protein. I'm getting old. What's happening? Anyway, side story. Keep it on track, land the plane. But I've watched over the years a lot of politicians, and I've watched them talk. And I know for a lot of folks, the goal is to just win the election. They want the position, they want the prestige, they want the power, they want the parking, they want the payoff. Some of them it's about ego, some of it's about entitlement, whatever it may be. It's about advancing themselves and not the will of the people. They want to be somebody, but they don't have the courage or the vision or the will to do great things on behalf of you, the people who put them into office in the first place. Because one thing I've witnessed firsthand, true leadership is tough. It's really tough. And for a lot of these positions, standing up for righteousness, even when you're standing alone, is a bridge too far. And for some, there is no money in standing up for the right thing. And that is why you constantly see elements of the swamp strive and thrive. But when you're guided by certain enduring truths about our great American experiment, you understand the boldness of our Declaration of Independence, the genius of our Constitution and our separation of powers, the philosophy of what it means to have a limited and defined government, the importance of the rule of law, the non-negotiable understanding that our rights come from our Creator and that government is only put in place to protect the rights that we innately have. When you understand those foundations, you will fight like heck to protect it. And that is what I have witnessed from Ron. Really, it's fearlessness, courageousness, unwavering, unrelenting for you, for me, for us, for our families, for the free state, and ultimately what it means to be an American. And I'm not saying this because I'm the wife, trust me. I'm saying this because I'm really honored and very privileged to be in this unique position to watch one of the greatest governors of our time stand in the breach and fight for us, particularly when it's not easy. I've seen him fight a lot of battles, and quite frankly, I'm still watching him fight battles, even battles with our own party. I do not understand why there is resistance to property tax reform. You would think that all Republicans would be on board with that. It's not their money, it's your money. And when you're stretched thin, you should have more of your own money. And you know what? You'll be a one-woman wrecking crew, stimulus wrecking crew, I know from fact, because you'll go out and utilize that money in the economy, and it'll just be better for everyone as a whole. So issue after issue, from Martha's Vineyard to COVID, to parental rights in education, to universal school choice, I've watched this state really transform into a conservative bastion of sanity and freedom. There is really a sense of pride, would you not say, when people can go around the country and you can say, I am a Floridian. Because what I would say is people all across the United States, but really the world, and we saw this in COVID, what a lot of countries were looking to Florida as the shining light on a hill, and it is shining light that we must do everything that we can to protect. But let's make one thing very clear. We would not be the free state. We would not be number one in so many categories if it were not for Ron DeSantis and his courageous leadership. You know, as Rush Limbaugh said in one of his final shows, he said, Ron DeSantis has an ironclad spine of steel. And that is true. I think he wanted to use other words, but he kind of switched at the end and he said it that way, which is fine. And it's true because I've witnessed this firsthand. I mean, you can hit the guy over the head with a 2x4 and he will just keep walking. He will just keep doing what's right. And they keep hitting him and he just stays to true north. And at the end of the day, is that not what we expect our elected leaders to do? You are supposed to articulate a vision, explain why it matters, explain who you are fighting for and why you are doing it, and have the strength and the courage to be able to defend it, and never let the fear of pushback by anyone, media and or otherwise, derail from what you know in your heart is right and just. And that is the one thing that I have witnessed over and over and over and over and over from Ron, is his courageous, bold stance, unapologetic stance. And we just celebrated yesterday our 16-year wedding anniversary. Can you believe that? And I wrote in a little social media post, I said, you know, that I loved him and I was very proud of him and that he's my hero. And he really is my hero because he's shown me what true north is. He's shown me how to have courage in more than one ways. Yes, political, but also in my personal battles with breast cancer. He really is my hero. And I'm just so proud of everything that he has done for the free state of Florida, for parents, for moms, for families, for everyone, for law enforcement, for educators, for schools, for the environment, everything. And so with that, it's my great privilege and honor to introduce the GOAT and my better half, my hero, Ron DeSantis.
Good morning. Welcome to the free state of Florida. It's great to see y'all. Please have a seat. Thank you so much. So my better half mentioned that we just had our 16th wedding anniversary, and it's been great, and we had a great anniversary. Last year at this time was our 15th wedding anniversary, and I just want you to know for the record, I had really good things planned for this because I knew it would mean a lot to her, and like me, I'm not all necessarily into pomp and circumstance, but I thought it would be really, so I had a bunch of stuff planned. And those plans for our 15th wedding anniversary got interrupted by a young lady named Helene who came barreling down the west coast of Florida. And I guess I can say now, having done that, you haven't lived life if you haven't spent your 15-year wedding anniversary in the State Emergency Operations Center, because that's what we did. I just listened to her do her thing. I thought back, the first time I ran for Congress, however many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I did my first fundraiser. And I had buddies from college and the military and throughout my baseball, all the stuff. And we met in New York City because they were from all around the country. And they were like, hey, can Casey just introduce you? And so she did, and she went through a great spiel. And I had nothing else to add to that spiel, so I just said what she said, let's have fun or whatever. So she's been great as First Lady. She's made a huge difference in the lives of so many people with so many different great initiatives, and she's continuing to do God's work each and every day. So I think about what Florida's success means for like the broader debates that we have in our country. And I go back to this story. So I'm running for re-election. It's probably the spring of 2022. And I'm down in Naples, Florida. And we were doing an event at this restaurant. And so I kind of got whisked in the back. I sit down. There's like a big table, probably like 30 people around the table in a private room. And so they're going, introducing themselves one after another. And I knew a lot of the people, but I didn't know everybody. So finally, about halfway through, there's a gentleman sitting right across from me, and he's just talking about things, the government and the politics of California were so bad. They were so sick of the policies, and they made the move to Florida, and they just he and his wife love what's going on in Florida, love the approach, love the freedom, love all this stuff. And look, I appreciated that, don't get me wrong, but quite frankly, I hear that a lot. And so, I'm just like, thank you. Well, then he kind of paused, looked down, and then he said, oh, by the way, I'm Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. And so if you look at my reports of people that have supported me financially, you will see Gavin Newsom's father-in-law. But so I think it's important to point out two things. One, what we've shown in Florida being number one in higher education, education freedom, number one economy, 50-year low in the crime rate. I can go on and on. What that shows, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is conservative policies work. Period, end of story, they work. But here's the thing. Sometimes doing the right thing is tough. It's not easy. That's why a lot of people don't do it. If leadership were cost-free, everyone would be a leader. But we see we need more leaders, particularly throughout the states. So what we can also say is when I got elected, and my wife mentioned, 2018, Florida was the most significant swing state, razor-thin elections. I don't need to tell the Florida Republican women that because they had to pound the pavement. We'd eke out these races year after year, 1 point here, 1 point there, and that was just the norm. So I came in under that in 2018. We had 300,000 more registered Democrats in the state of Florida than Republicans, and when I got elected in 2018, the state of Florida had never had more registered Republicans than Democrats in its entire history. And so I get in there, very close race, And a lot of people told me, and it wasn't crazy, they said, listen, Florida's a very delicate political balance. You got to kind of, tread a little softly here. You don't want to come out of the gate and be too bold because it could alienate some people. And you really got to make sure that you're able to maintain your support, because if you lose any support, then the Democrats will have a chance to come back. And I understood that. And honestly, I appreciated it. But that was advice that I rejected. And I rejected it because, I may have won half the vote, but I earned 100% of the executive power. And my view is I was going to wield that authority and I was going to lead to be able to deliver on the promises that I made to the people of the state of Florida. And that means you got to go big. You got to go bold. And so we did a lot. The end result has been today, so when I ran the first time, swing state, 1-point races, we won in 22 the largest Republican victory in the history of the state of Florida in a governor's race by 20 points, 1.5 million votes. Now in that election, we had 300,000. We had gone from 300,000 in the hole to 300,000 positive when I got reelected, which is great. 600,000 swing in 4 years is significant. But as I stand here today, basically 2.5 years after that election, we've gone from 300,000 more registered Republicans to now 1.3 million more registered Republicans. So how do you get there? Why do you get there? And I think it's simple. Yes, we painted in bold colors, not pale pastels. But two, we set out a vision and we delivered results. We identified a role for me as governor and as the leader to protect the people of Florida, and honestly, the influence has spread far beyond that, from the pathologies of the radical left. And on each and every issue, I can say, not only did we win election, not only did we articulate our policies and work to bring those about, but we have beaten the left in this state. We have beaten the Democrats in this state on issue after issue. When COVID came, we beat Fauci and we beat the bureaucratic establishment by having the state open and kids in school, liberating our kids from these failed policies, banning things like vaccine mandates and ensuring medical freedom. And we didn't get a lot of support from the media on that, and we took a lot of heat for all that. And I will just say, everyone looks back and says they agreed with me now. I can tell you, I was there. It was very lonely. And when you're in this business, you get hit all the time. They smear you, they lie about you. That's just what happens. But if you take everything I've ever done as a public official and all the blowback and campaigns and any actions I've taken throughout all those years, and you add up all of that, all the attacks, all the blowback, and you compared it to just what I got during COVID, it's not even close. I got more during COVID. It was international. I was going after against the machine. I was going after what the media wanted. I was going after what all these elites wanted. And so, we were getting hit day after day. I had a lot of people tell me that, I was making a big mistake politically. And quite frankly, I didn't know what was going to happen politically, but I did know this. My job as the leader was to care more about protecting the jobs of the people I was elected to serve than it was in protecting my own political hide. And that's what we did. So we beat them on COVID. We beat Soros on crime. To this day, I'm the only governor in America that has removed Soros-backed prosecutors from office. And we might have some more in the hopper, so stay tuned on that. We beat BLM and the radical left and the defund the police movement. We banned defunding the police in the state of Florida. We made sure you're not going to be able to riot with impunity in this state. And if you engage in mob violence, if you engage in looting, we don't do like they do in Portland, slap you on the wrist and put you right back on the street. In Florida, you end up in the inside of a jail cell because we hold you accountable. So we won that fight. We beat the teacher unions on school choice. And we now have universal school choice, the only state in the country to do it as extensively as we have, and we rank #1 every year for school choice. But we also understood winning a policy battle is fine, but I don't believe that the left should be able to control our institutions. And that means they should not be able to control K-12 education. So we were the first state to enact paycheck protection for teacher union dues. No automatic deduction for union dues. The amount of teachers signing up has plummeted, and now you have teacher unions in Miami-Dade and Broward that are going to be decertified outright. So that is what you call winning against the left. We've also beaten the left on higher education. You know, for years, Republicans just sat there while these universities went left and left and left without doing anything. Well, not in the state of Florida. We were the first state to eliminate DEI from our public universities. You didn't see Hamas be able to riot on our university campuses. Nope, not gonna happen. People will tell me, oh man, Florida's so lucky that you didn't have these disturbances. And I said, it ain't about luck. Because everybody who's a president of a university in the state of Florida knows that if they allowed their campus to descend into a Columbia University fiasco, they would no longer be university presidents in the state of Florida. That would be very... But we have enacted all tenured professors in the state of Florida must undergo review every 5 years and can be terminated for poor performance. These universities belong to the people of our individual states. They do not belong to the radical left. And we have reclaimed those, and we have refocused the mission on the classical mission of education, the pursuit of truth, and ultimately to prepare each and one of our students to be citizens of this republic. So we are leading the way, and we are winning the battle on higher education. So on all of these things, and there's many more battles that we fought, we're the state that nuked ESG, we're the first state to ban a central bank digital currency. All the things the left tries to do, when they come to Florida, they run into a brick wall. And so we're proud of that. But ultimately, I think the reason we went from minus 300,000 Republicans to plus 1.3 million is because we leaned in onto these battles. We won these fights. We beat the Democrats. We beat the left. And people have been pleased with the results of our actions. And that is really the formula for what you need to do to be able to be successful. And I look around, honestly, I look at our Congress. I've been very disappointed in the Republican Congress. I don't see the energy. I don't see the sense of this is our chance. I don't see everything. I see the president doing a lot. I don't see the Congress. You know, we need to have a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution so that they don't bankrupt us anymore. We need to enact term limits for members of Congress. And we need to ban insider trading in Congress. Got a lot of work to do there. So we've shown it, and as I look, I think one of the things I'm proud of as Florida is we've got a lot of people in state government. You know, look, I get the attention, people know me, but we've got a lot of people who are fighting the good fight, and they're doing it the right way. And if you're a Floridian, you should be proud of people like our Chief Financial Officer, Blaise Ngolia, he is doging all the local governments because their budgets have exploded and people are having to pay higher property taxes at the local level. And it's my vision that much of that spending is totally unnecessary. You can go back to what the budgets were being spent in 2020, and then in exchange for that, we're going to put something on the ballot. It's my vision that if you're a Florida resident, your personal residence should not be subject to property tax at all. That's what we want to get to. And Blaze is helping bring that about. You know, our Attorney General, James Uthmeier, he is holding child predators accountable. He is standing up for everything we're doing on immigration. You know, we did the alligator Alcatraz, and we've had illegals there. You know, it's interesting because when Biden was president, they would never take any illegals, and so now we get them, and the Trump administration will fly them back to their home country, and it's worked very, very well. So I was in a situation when Biden was there, I'm like, okay, it's like banging your head against a wall. They want an open border, this can't stand. You know, how do we make it so that people realize what's going on here? And so we started a transport program that took illegals to places including beautiful Martha's Vineyard. And that made a lot of news when we did that. But our Attorney General is fighting the fight on all of those. And we opened another one in Northeast Florida, Baker County, right by Jacksonville, the deportation depot. And they have flights leaving there now, 5 flights a week, taking illegal aliens home. And we're working on one in Northwest Florida called the Panhandle Pokey, and we're gonna get that going. So we'll do it. Do we have anybody from the state of Georgia here? Okay, Georgia. I just want you to know, so this deportation depot is right by Jacksonville. There are these rumors on the internet, and I just want to tell you they're not true. That is for illegal aliens. We are not going to use deportation depot to house any unruly Georgia fans during the Florida-Georgia game. Not happening. Don't worry about that. We're not doing that. Although if I could put the Georgia team there for a little bit, maybe Florida would have a chance for a change. We'll see. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So he's been doing that. And you've got people that are really fighting. Our Surgeon General, Joe Ladapo, is leading the nation on medical freedom. And on it goes. But we have one fellow that I'm going to bring up here in a sec who's with us is our Lieutenant Governor in Florida, Jay Collins. And Jay is, I appointed him, my previous Lieutenant Governor, who was great. She's the president of Florida International University down in Miami and doing a great job. And so, you know, I had to make the decision about, you never know what happens in this world, right? Like, nothing is ever for sure. You know, we could need a new governor tomorrow. That's just the way things happen. And so, you know, you look, who's somebody who has the conservative foundation that I think is important to be able to make sense of all this. But then 2, who's somebody that will run into the fires? Who's somebody that will go into fights and actually stand up for you when it's not easy? And so with Jay, it's interesting. He's the first Green Beret to ever become Lieutenant Governor of anywhere in Florida. 23 years as a Green Beret, which is impressive. And, you know, for those of you who know Special Forces community, I mean, I know the Navy side of it, people in the Army, you know, they have a very impressive community. But get this, 18 years into his service, he lost his leg and had to make a decision about, you know, retiring medically or trying to do something. And what he decided to do was to be the first person in the history of the Army to requalify as a Green Beret on a prosthetic leg. And he did it, and he had to do the same thing. And so he's done great service for the country. When he was finally retired after 23 years, his wife retired after 20 years in the Army as well, Special Forces. I recruited him to run for Senate many years ago in Tampa, a blue district, a Democrat incumbent. And he went in and he won that race by double digits, which is very impressive. But I think even more impressive than that, all these guys all say the same things when they run in the primaries. Then they get to Washington or Tallahassee, and sometimes they do the wrong things. Sometimes you got to drag them kicking and screaming to do the right things. But it's very rare to have somebody that on each and every issue is right there front and center fighting the good fight on behalf of you. So he was the one that did the bill that I signed to ban the CCP from buying land in the state of Florida. He did constitutional carry to expand Second Amendment rights. He was instrumental in universal school choice. He helped eliminate DEI from our public universities. On and on it goes. He's been there. But get this. When you had the war with Israel and Iran break out in June, we had a lot of people in Florida that were in Israel. I had church groups that were over there. I had students that were over there. And the way it works with Florida is like, people, they don't even bother with federal, they come right to us if they need, right? So we've rescued people in Haiti and Israel before. So it's something that we have experience in. So I was like, all right, I authorize rescue missions. The airport was shut down. Ballistic missiles were coming down. We got thousands of people out of Israel and got them to safety, either plane flight out of Jordan or boat to Cyprus and then flying out of Cyprus. Jay Collins, as an elected official, flew over there. He's on the ground in person rescuing our citizens from Israel while these ballistic missiles are raining down. How many of these politicians would be willing to do that? So it's for those reasons and many more that I have dubbed him the Chuck Norris of Florida politics. And he is here to say a few things. So come on up, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It is such an absolute honor to be here today. Now, how do you come in after that kind of an introduction? Goodness gracious. Y'all, what an amazing time to be alive. What an amazing time. Hard times are around us, but God's plan is bigger than our plan. I want you to know that. I want to remind everybody that right now. I'm grateful to be here at the National Federation of Republican Women. I want you to know my wife is a member, and she sends her regards to each and every one of you. She is back home taking care of our boys right now because families matter, our children matter, and we're out here doing God's work. So thank you for doing what you do. Now, but what I want to talk about when it comes to conservative women, we often talk about good, bold leaders, but behind every strong man, we know there is a stronger woman driving him. When we look across this, I see warriors united for America. It is amazing to see. As a 23-year retired Army Green Beret, y'all, I know the price of freedom. I do. I buried friends. I got shot and blown up for it, and I would do it again every day and twice on Sunday. I know that, thank you. I know that freedom isn't free. I know it's something that isn't given, it's earned. It has been earned generation over generation. It's something we protect. If good men and women fail to step into the breach, all is lost already. But that's not what's happening in America. From Yorktown to Appomattox, to the halls of DC, to the halls of Tallahassee, our uniquely American ideas, ideals, principles were formed, fought for, and defended generation over generation, sustained by the work, the warfare, the blood, sweat, and tears of heroes across our communities. It's because our founding fathers were blessed. They knew that God gave us those freedoms. It wasn't the government. They were given to us by God, and they built the Constitution that defended them. So they got to work. They formed a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And to this day, we fight to defend her. American warriors like each of you, each of our families. But speaking of warriors, you got to acknowledge the goat behind me here, right? Florida is the conservative proving grounds of America because he stood alone, he stood bold, and he led. That is what Florida does. That is what our legacy is, and that's what we have to continue to do. America is in a better place today because we have President Donald J. Trump right now. Imagine that, doing what he said, following through. And you know, there is no state that has done more to support President Trump's agenda than the free state of Florida, because when Florida leads, America wins. That's the recipe for success. Now, I'm incredibly proud to stand 100% with each of them. And I want you to know that as we continue to go forward, their legacy and their leadership is something we should model ourselves after. But let me tell you a little bit about the things I've delivered here just as coach. Yes, I went to Israel and I did rescue Americans, but I believe the government should protect our people, even if it means flying into a war zone to do it. I did sponsor constitutional carry. I did run the bill that, thank you. I did sponsor the bill that blocked the CCP from buying our land, because when your enemy speaks, you better listen. I even stood up for America's farmers in banning lab-grown meat, because you are not putting that in our children. No, sir, no, ma'am. And God has given me an amazing opportunity to be your lieutenant governor. I got to be a Green Beret before that, but y'all, I am a husband and a dad first and foremost, and we will fight tooth and nail all day, every day for our children. And we're gonna keep them free, we're gonna teach them what matters. They will be educated, not indoctrinated in Florida. When I retired from the military, funny story, I did actually run a bike across America like Johnny Appleseed with brisket, feeding people barbecue, because we fed people in natural disasters. And we were going out to reach them, to show them that good men and women will step into the breach and feed them when times are down. That's what Florida's been doing, that's what America's doing now, and that's what we have to continue to do moving forward. But y'all, we're not done fighting yet. I believe government should be bold, strong in defending our people, step into the breach, put themselves at risk, and do what matters. Even if it means there's legislation that you don't like, even if it means that people might sue you or say bad things about you. Y'all, we're defending our way of life, our people, and it is our job to stand between the nonsense and you. You heard the governor talk about immigration, property tax, and so many things. We're gonna fight every day to get that done in Florida. That needs to be the next model for what we do across these United States. There you go. We find ourselves in serious times, and serious times call for serious leaders. It feels like evil is chomping at the bit, kicking down the door. Liberal ideology and feckless rhinos attacking conservative warriors. Are y'all done with that yet? Are we tired of that? Evil men and women taking and threatening the very lives of those who are willing to step up and speak. God bless Charlie, but God bless the movement he started. I want to share a quote from who I believe is a under-recognized philosopher from the 90s and 2000s. You may know him as Rocky Balboa. Yeah, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place. I don't care how tough you are, it'll beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, nobody's gonna hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. You see, that's how winning is done. Y'all, that is the American story. That's who we are. That's our legacy. There is work to do. There is nowhere else to go. Nobody is going to rescue us today. We have what we need. We're stepping into the breach to protect what we love. God put us here today to defend those things. This is our time. We will not be the generation that fails to pass on those things, those liberties, those freedoms we love to the next generation. We will not fail these United States. It is a privilege to speak to you. It's a privilege to be here amongst warriors willing to defend all that matters. I believe in America. I fought for America. It is, it was, and it always will be worth fighting for. Thank you for your fight. Thank you for what you do. God bless you. God bless the free state of Florida, and God bless these United States.
Great job. Guy's been an amazing leader. So as you see, we've got a lot of great talent in Florida. I just want to bring just kind of a final point home is, this great experiment that we have as Americans is something that we constantly got to strive to protect and preserve. We've had a great vantage point over the last 6 or 7 years in seeing the results from different states. We've seen how leftism can destroy a state like California. We see how cities like Chicago have collapsed. We'll see even worse if this guy gets elected mayor of New York City coming up. And then we've seen the Florida story and the success that we've had, and many other of our red states that have done so much better than all of that. And it brings the point home that I think, because we've got a lot more to do, certainly in Florida, and I know throughout the rest of the country. I mean, we've mentioned property tax is what we're going after. We want to liberate people. We want people to be free. But we're also going to make sure that Florida does a redistricting in the mid-decade. We're going to get that done. We're going to also make sure that you are protected from excesses involving big tech and artificial intelligence. You should not have to pay twice your electric bill because some tech giant wants to build a data center in your neighborhood. That doesn't work. We've got to stand up for the people. We're also going to ensure the strongest protections for medical freedom anywhere in the country. They still want to do mandates. They still want to do all this, and we've got to make sure that we're doing so. And we've got more to do. But at the end of the day, when our founding fathers founded this country, and we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence next July, and that's something that's very meaningful. It should cause us to reflect on what it means to be an American. We're doing our part in Florida. I'm already airdropping statues of founding fathers and different, a lot of these places are tearing down the founders. We're putting more up. So I did Ben Franklin in Franklin County. I've got Thomas Jefferson in Jefferson County. We're working on Madison, Hamilton, Monroe, all the founders. I got a big George Washington in the state capitol now. I got on loan from Mount Vernon. So we're doing all our part on that. But they, when they went and met in Philadelphia, when they were contemplating the Declaration of Independence, and they decided to go through with it, that was not like signing that document was not like popping off on social media or just saying. When they put their signatures on that document, they did pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Because the penalty for failure for them, 100% certainty, was death. And these were not people this is not like the underclass rising up, those types of revolutions. These guys were all very successful. They had a lot to lose, but they thought it was important to stand up for freedom, for the idea that our rights come from God, not from the government, and that people ultimately have a right to fair representation. And so they launched the American Revolution. They won the war improbably against the British Empire, which was much more powerful. But then even after winning that, they knew there were a lot of problems because they didn't have a strong constitution. And so they meet in Philadelphia again many years later, 1787, and they work on coming up with a constitution that could hold the states together. And when Benjamin Franklin, who was kind of the senior statesman of that, when he left the convention hall, he was actually asked by somebody on the street in Philadelphia, Dr. Franklin, did you give us a republic or a monarchy? And his answer is telling, because he said a republic if you can keep it. They understood that a free society is not just come up with a good document and everything works out, that it's something you got to constantly fight for and strive for, and yes, even sacrifice for. And I'm reminded of this and I just was there giving a speech a couple weeks ago, flying into Washington, D.C. And one of the paths you can take when you go into Reagan National Airport will take you flush parallel to the National Mall. So as you're coming, you look out the left side of the plane, you see sweeping views, the Washington Monument, the Jefferson Memorial, the U.S. Capitol building, all these symbols, in spite of all the problems we have in society and all the issues we have to deal with, you feel pride in being an American because those really exemplify the great ideals on which this country was founded. But having done that trip through the years, I realized one thing. As much as all the tourists were looking out the left side of the plane, as neat as those monuments were, the best monuments to American freedom were not found on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. All you had to do was look out the right side of the plane, and you saw a different kind of monument. Very small, nondescript headstones covering the rolling terrain of a place called Arlington National Cemetery. And it occurred to me then, when I saw it, it occurs to me every time since then, those are the best monuments to American freedom, because this is not free. It does require every generation of Americans to step up, to lead, to sacrifice. And that may mean just do your part as being a diligent citizen. Maybe it means you do what you're doing as Republican women and really being strong activism for conservative ideas and conservative candidates. Maybe it means you run for political office. And maybe it means that you strap on the cloth of your country, risk your life, and in some instances even give that last full measure of devotion. Our founding fathers studied the history of every republic in the history of mankind. When they showed up in Philadelphia, they drew lessons from all of those experiences, but in point of fact, there was really only one thing that all of those republics had in common, and it was this: every one of them had failed. And so they understood it fell to the people of the United States of America to determine once and for all, can people really govern themselves? Can we have a society in which we recognize our rights as God-given, not government-granted? Can we have a society based on the rule of law, not the rule of individual men? Or is mankind forever destined to live under various forms of despotism? And they believed, and I believe, that ultimately the people of the United States will answer that question. We are 250 years in, almost 250 years in, we are the inheritors of a great legacy. We are the inheritors of a founding generation who are willing to risk it all to be able to stand for what I believe are enduring truths. And so these battles that we fight, it's much less important about, who is dishing out patronage, who is doing this, what political consultants are making money. None of that matters. What matters is, are we electing people to office that are willing to get out and lead, to defend these timeless truths, to deliver really significant improvements in the quality of life, and to be great protectors of this legacy of American freedom. This battle is raging. All you got to do is look around the country at some of these cities and states and to see the direction they're going. Florida has shown we can win this battle. We don't only have to win it in red states. Yes, we got to win it in cities, and we got to win it in some of these blue states, and we got to continue to make gains nationally like we are under the president. But this is our time to stand up and get the job done. And I don't know about you, but I believe that we have a responsibility to leave our states and this country better to our kids and grandkids than we found it. We've done that in the state of Florida. We've got more work to do. Thank you for what you're doing. I wouldn't have gotten elected the first time without the Republican women, and we've given you a little bit of cushion now, so you got less pressure. But what you're doing is very important, and at the end of the day, we have to win. We cannot let the left destroy our cities, our states, and this country, and so let's get the job done. God bless you all, and thank you. Enjoy Florida. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.